Hi, this is Nathan Smith with Reliance Geo, and welcome to our fireside chat where we're going to talk about a case study on Reliance Geo and the Geophone and the opportunities we believe that it can have in a global digital market and accelerating adoption of internet services. So I think when you look at the world today in the pandemic, it has really highlighted the importance of the internet and the importance of how the internet is used for everything we do in our daily lives, be it from education to how we work at home and how we communicate and stay engaged with our loved ones. But the biggest challenge is that there is a digital divide out there where at least half the world is not connected. And this gets even further exacerbated when you look at emerging markets where only 1 in 5 is connected. So, we believe that when you look at India, right, and you look at the case study, right, we believe that there's some key lessons that can be taken from there that can be applied in how you overcome the digital divide in these markets. So when you look at India, prior to Jio launching in late 2016, India lagged behind the rest of the other countries in the world, where it ranked 155th in broadband penetration. Now, some of the factors that went into this was that India was a very mobile-dominated market, but it was mobile-dominated from a 2G service provider perspective. There are about 14 service providers. And with these, and they were very focused on driving just voice and messaging. So some of them had started to do some limited 3G deployment, but the devices were very expensive. And also the data was about $10 per gigabyte, which made it some of the most expensive in the world. These factors created barriers that basically did not drive internet adoption in India. So in 2016, when Jio went into the marketplace, we believed that it wasn't a lack of customer demand, but rather there wasn't a solid product or service offering that met what the customer's expectations of what the internet was, okay? So what Jio did was that in 2016, we launched 4G all across India. So today in India, Jio covers about 99% of the market in India, okay? The other thing we did is that we made it extremely easy for the customers, and we made a very strong value proposition where voice is always free, and we made our data services, we went from $10 a gigabyte to less than 10 cents a gigabyte, so the most affordable in the world. So what we saw is that in the first 190 days of adoption, that Jio picked up 100 million customers. So we were the fastest growing digital service provider in the world. But what we saw is that there was a very large user base, about 500 million 2G feature phone users that were not adopting internet. And so not wanting to create a digital divide, Jio set about to create a strategy on how we could accelerate the adoption of these 500 million 2G feature phone users to becoming full-fledged internet users. So first thing we did is we actually created the Geophone, okay? So the Geophone created a new device category, which was called the smart feature phone. So when we looked at how the feature phones had evolved, they really hadn't evolved since 2011. And the key features of a feature phone was long battery life, flashlight, and voice. And when we looked at that, we said, okay, those are all very important. We want to carry those over, but we wanted to integrate a fully internet experience into the device that was extremely easy to use. So what we did is we took the feature phone, those hardware capabilities, and we integrated and enhanced the operating system that could run the same applications and digital services that customers today were running on smartphone platforms, that they could run inside this smart feature phone, okay? So with that, customers were now able to not only get what they were expecting with a long battery life, a durable device, torch capabilities, but a fully integrated set of capabilities around media, which included live TV, video on demand, and such, but also having a best-in-class communication experience. So with this device, the Geophone, then Jio created a fully integrated go-to-market strategy. So this is very important because, again, we're talking about users that had never used the internet before. So we had to create a simple but compelling value proposition to them. So first thing we did is that on the device itself, we preloaded a full suite of applications and services with a very strong focus on media. Now, why is media important? Media is important because today people were consuming media in various different formats. They were watching TV on their existing, TV they had. They went to the movie theater to watch their movies. They listened to the music through the FM radio they had today, right? So they were consuming media already today. So our goal was how to bring all this media that they were consuming into this geophone and make that become what the internet was to the customer, okay? So that's what we did. We created all these core media application services. We preloaded them on the device so they didn't have to download them. And when they got the device, they could just simply click on the device or the button icon and then use service. So that was the first thing we did, is we really integrated all these services. The other thing we did from a language localization perspective, there are about 20 languages in India that are spoken by millions of people. And so again, people who do not speak English or maybe Hindi, we still wanted them to be able to use this device. So we enabled them to interact with the device using voice commands in their native language to make phone calls, to play a piece of music, do things like that, right? So again, there wasn't a fear of how do I use this device from that perspective. The other thing we did is we made very simple price plans for the user. So the price plans included free voice. So for Jio, voice calling has always been free and will always be free. The internet services, the data plans, again, we made it very simple and made it very affordable, less than 10 cents per gigabyte. And access to all the digital application services were fully included in that. So again, the user could just simply use the device and use the services that came with it, okay? And then the other thing we did is that we simplified the experience with a single sign-on. So when the user used or started an app up, they used the mobile SIM credentials to seamlessly enable them into the application. The user never had to enter any user ID credentials or such, right? So when you take all of this experience fully integrated from end to end, plus a leading set of content, which included their favorite, Bollywood content, their favorite sports content, that, right? With a device that it was built for media and had a very long battery life, right? What we believe was a best-in-class category, right? And what ended up happening is that today we have sold over 110 million of these devices. So again, 500 million users. We've now quickly accelerated 110 million of this feature phone from 2G to being strong power internet users. So now what you see is that India, when we talked about ranked 155th before in broadband, is now #1 in the world in driving mobile broadband usage, greater than the United States and twice as much as China. And you look at the geophone users, they are averaging 7 gigabytes of more data usage on a monthly basis, right? Which actually puts their usage higher than most smartphone users throughout the world, right? So we think that that's a very compelling proposition for operators to look at from that perspective. And then when you look at how Jio itself is evolving, we see that, next slide, we see that, again, coming back to the case study and the opportunity we believe in Africa, right? We believe that in Africa, with a very young population, under 30, we believe that with, the extensive 4G development that the operators are investing in, there's a very strong opportunity to accelerate your user adoption of these feature phone users. And again, pretty similar how India had 500, we believe that number is about the same in Africa, right? And how we can accelerate that usage or the adoption of these 2G feature phone users onto 4G, and how they can also become internet users on a continuous basis from that perspective. And then we believe that for Africa itself, the reason why this is important is that when you look at the economic opportunity, right? It's not just about the direct service broadband of the 1.5 billion, next slide, 1.5 billion, right? But it's also about the overall economic impact that it has on, from a productivity, from an enablement perspective. So it has a multiplier effect that goes way beyond just direct broadband access and service capability, right? And so again, when you talk about this super large user base, this 500 million feature phone users, right? And now bringing them beyond voice and bringing them on to digital that can be used for education, digital that can be used for payments, digital that can be used for, media entertainment consumption, everything you do in your daily life. when we started this fireside chat, we talked about, again, the digital divide. And when half the people don't have access to internet, and even that number becomes a lot lower in emerging markets, right? Then what can you do to try to accelerate their adoption and thus, accelerate what broadband services can mean from a digital perspective? So hopefully with these, slides we covered about India, what Reliance Jio has done with the JioPhone, this can, there can be some key takeaways that are applied as you think about what your strategies can be for Africa.
All right, thanks, Nathan. So hello, everybody. And thank you again for joining us today. My name is Anil Jingure, and I'm with Radisys. So we just heard from Nathan how Jio disrupted the Indian market. But how can other service providers benefit from this? And can this even be replicated outside of India into other emerging markets around the globe? Well, this is where Radisys can help. Radisys is a fully owned company by Reliance Industries and can bring the expertise, experience, and products that Jio used to digitally transform India to other service providers as well. So we actually already started collaborating with some, service providers globally to build a core strategy around, the device that is relevant to their market. But again, it's not a device, only strategy. And you need to look at this holistically and pay attention to the digital services and user experience, and to make it easy for the consumer to make the transition. So you need to look at the end-to-end experience from the subscriber perspective, right? Bundling the smart feature phone, for example, with media and video apps, and making the internet synonymous with media and video usage. But having local media and content is key though, right? There's no one-size-fits-all strategy. Having a strategy that is specific for the local market is very important and crucial to be successful. So an affordable and high-quality device is at the heart of this transformation strategy. So the device needs to be designed with keeping the digital user experience front and center. So you must make it very easy and intuitive for the first-time internet users, right? That's your target segment. So things like one press for video calling, watching television, listening to music, radio are important. So very often we see that service providers just focus on the affordability part of the device and making big concessions to user experience and device quality. And then finding out later, right, that these decisions significantly impacted their transformation success. So at Radisys, we've basically taken the Jio 4G phone design and added the global 2G and 3G bands to make it relevant to other service providers around the globe. And remember, this phone sold over 110 million units in India. So it's a very robust and proven design. And the phone also runs KaiOS as the operating system, and that is the de facto standard for smart feature phones today. So in this slide, you see some of the services that Jio is offering in India. And as Nathan explained, they are preloaded on the Jio phone. So users do not have to find out how to do the downloads and activation. Remember, you're dealing with first-time internet users many of the times. So these apps are now also available for other service providers and can be white-labeled by Radisys. So besides the obvious apps for music, television, cinema, news, and customer care, Jio built their own chat app that is integrated with their customer care app, for example. And this in combination with chatbots significantly reduced the call center costs, for example. There's also something called like channels that enables organizations or popular brands or local governments to interact with your subscribers and vice versa. And earlier we spoke about the One Press video calling feature. Well, before the Jio phone launched, not many of us could have imagined how popular and widely used video calling was going to be on the Jio smart feature phone today. But it is extremely popular, right? It really brings the emotional connection to the conversation, and that was not possible before with a normal feature phone. So also at the beginning, Nathan explained, right, that the first slide, he spoke about the fact that 3.7 billion people do not have internet access. So still many of the households in the emerging markets do not have a broadband connection or Wi-Fi at home. So with the Radisys smart feature phone and our media cable, you can convert any television into a smart television, enabling subscribers to stream YouTube or video content into, to their television at home. I just plug the media cable into the phone and into an old television using an RGA, RGB connection, or a television using an HDMI connection. And the phone will automatically recognize the cable and will start streaming the content to the media cable. And there is a local processor in the cable that detects the resolution of the television and adapts the stream accordingly. Also, what will happen then, the phone will start acting as a remote control. So this is another very interesting idea, how to boost 4G data consumption and provide meaningful digital services to consumers in emerging markets. So this brings me, to our last slide. So we spoke about what worked for Jio in India and how, this could be replicated by other service providers in their emerging markets. Our experience is that to migrate 2G users and accelerate 4G adoption and to keep users connected and engaged, requires a strong end-to-end strategy and value proposition. Having separate siloed approaches for your devices or digital services does not give the best user experience. So customer education should also not be forgotten, right? It needs to happen before the customer leaves the retail store. And there, the promotion of the app usage with, the enabled bundles should take place at the retail store itself. So with this, I've concluded our presentation. I hope our presentation inspired you to look at digital transformation in emerging markets from a different lens. If you have any questions or want to learn more, please connect with Nathan or myself. And thank you again for listening to this session today.